Welcome back. I'm reading Chapter 19, War of the Worlds. While the fairies battled the witches in Central Park, General Wilson and his Marines were up against the fight of their lives. The literary army had the strongest, fastest, and most efficient opposition the United States soldiers had ever faced. The flying monkeys swooped in from the sky and yanked the Marines' weapons out of their hands before they even knew what was happening. The Jolly Roger blasted their cannons all over the Marines' Hummers and tanks and at the rooftops where the pirates spotted snipers. Once they were virtually defenseless, the Winkies and Card soldiers rounded up all the Marines in Midtown Manhattan and forced them to kneel in the middle of 59th Street at the edge of Central Park. The Winkies and the Card soldiers surrounded the captured Marines while the Jolly Roger and the flying monkeys watched them from the air above. The literary soldiers only parted as the Wicked Witch, the Queen of Hearts, and Captain Hook came to have a word with their prisoners. "Which one of you is in charge?" the Queen of Hearts asked. Against their sergeant's advice, General Wilson got to his feet and addressed the literary villains. "I am," he announced. "I am General Gunther Wilson of the United States Marines. Who the heck are you people?" Now, General," the Wicked Witch said. "There's no way to speak to your new commanders." "The United States Marines only answers to one commander, and that is our commander-in-chief," General Wilson said. "And where is he?" Captain Hook asked, and looked around the New York street. "He must step forward immediately and surrender the other world to us." "She is in Washington, D.C., General Wilson said, "and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you'll never get close to her. You see, we're just a fraction of the United States military. The rest of it is surrounding the city as we speak. The moment you step off this island, you'll be annihilated." The Wicked Witch, the Queen of Hearts, and Captain Hook were amused by the general's remarks. The villains looked at one another and howled with menacing laughter. "Then we'll disarm them just as easily as they've disarmed you," the Queen of Hearts said. "This isn't the first world we've conquered, General, and it won't be the last. Soon the heads of your precious military and commander-in-chief will be mounted on our wall." "But you and your men won't have to perish in the process," the Wicked Witch said. "You and your men can join our army and be part of our great empire." General Wilson took off his sunglasses so the villains could see every inch of his disgusted and impassioned skull. "We would rather die than join the likes of you," he shouted. "So be it," Captain Hook said. "Mr. Smee, prepare the cannons." The pirates aboard the Jolly Roger loaded the ship's cannons and aimed them at the Marines. The general and his soldiers closed their eyes and braced themselves for a massacre. "On my count of 3, Captain Hook ordered. 1, 2... Suddenly, the Dalai Lama descended from the sky and shielded the Marines from the Jolly Roger's cannons. The floating ships were so close to each other the pirates could see the whites of one another's eyes. Peter Pan stood beside Captain Auburn Sally and Admiral Jacobson on the upper deck. "Oi, codfish!" Peter Pan called down to Captain Hook. "Miss me?" The sight of Peter Pan made Captain Hook growl like a wounded animal. "Peter Pan!" he roared. "What are you doing in the other world? I couldn't let you have all the fun without me, now could I?" Peter Pan taunted him. "Leave these Marines alone, Captain. Finish your fight with me before you pick another one." Captain Hook glared at the boy who wouldn't grow up with so much hatred it was a miracle his face didn't catch fire. "Smee, drop a ladder," Captain Hook ordered. Smee rolled a rope ladder off the side of the ship and it touched the ground. Captain Hook grabbed a hold of the ladder and pointed to the Dalai Lama with his hook. "After that ship," he commanded. Peter Pan stuck his tongue out at Captain Hook. Admiral Jacobson spun the Dalai Lama's wheel and the ship rose higher into the sky with the Jolly Roger soaring after it. The flying monkeys also flew after the Dalai Lama to assist the Jolly Roger, but the creatures came to an abrupt stop when the Zibling's colorful jet zipped into their path. The superheroes and their adopted father waved at the monkeys from inside the cockpit. "Attention, hominid and septitrib hybrids," Professor Wallet said through the aircraft speakers. "Resist your animalistic urges and spare yourselves from cataclysmic fate." The flying monkeys scratched their heads and looked at one another in confusion. The Ziblings rolled their eyes at the professor's terminology, and Bolt took the microphone from him. "In translation, just because monkeys see doesn't mean monkeys should do," Bolt said. "Ditch the flying ship and come with us. We'll make it worth your while." The morph transformed into a pile of bananas to tease the monkeys. The winged creatures were tempted to go after the Zibling's jet, but they glanced down at the Wicked Witch for permission first. "Tear that flying chunk of metal apart," the Wicked Witch ordered them. Since the flying monkeys were under the witch's spell, they had no choice but to obey her. The winged creatures hurtled after the Zibling's jet with their claws raised and their sharp teeth exposed. The superheroes yanked into the aircraft on their aircraft's gears, and the jet zoomed into the sky. I dare say, merry men, shouted a boisterous voice. What sort of self-respecting man refers to himself as a Winky? The Wicked Witch looked down 59th Street and saw Robin Hood, Little John, Allen a Dale, Will Scarlet, and Friar Tuck standing at Columbus Circle. The Circle was a New York City landmark and had a tall statue of Christopher Columbus in the center of a roundabout connecting 59th Street and to Broadway. Would you look at that hideous woman with wrinkles they take orders from, he said. Do you know what we in Locksley call a woman with one eye, terrible clothes, and a haggard face? I don't know, Robin, Little John said. What do we call her? Single, the Prince of Thieves declared. The merry men burst into a fit of haughty laughter. The Wicked Witch grunted at the insult and steam piped out of her ears. After those arrogant men, she ordered. Also under the witch's spell, the Winky soldiers immediately sprinted down the street and dashed after the Prince of Thieves. The Wicked Witch sat side saddle on her magic umbrella and flew above her soldiers. Robin Hood and the merry men hightailed it out of Columbus Circle and ran north on Broadway, leading their followers to another part of the city. As the Queen of Hearts watched the Wicked Witch and the Winkies race off, a stiff hand unexpectedly tapped her on the shoulder. Excuse me, ma'am, said a voice behind her. Would you happen to know how to get to Grand Central Station from here? The Queen of Hearts turned around and discovered the Tin Woodman standing behind her. The Queen had never seen a man made of metal before, and a delighted squeal escaped her lips. She stepped toward the metal man with eyes like a predator. My word, what a remarkably rare head you have, she said, and stroked the side of his face. It would be a wonderful addition to my collection. Come again, the Tin Woodman asked. Guard, seize this man at once, the Queen of Hearts shouted, and off with his head. And this is why you don't ask for directions in strange cities, the Tin Woodman said to himself. The Ozian ran from the deranged queen as fast as his tin legs could carry him. He took a sharp turn on Fifth Ave, heading south into the city, and the card soldiers hurried after him. The Queen of Hearts snapped her fingers, and two of her soldiers joined hands, scooping her up and carried her off with them as they chased after the Tin Woodman. Unbeknownst to the literary army, they had just been strategically lured away by Connor's friends and characters, and the villains had taken the bait like a hungry school of fish. Now that the Jolly Roger was flying after the Dalai Lama, the flying monkeys were following the siblings, the Winkies were running after the merry men, and the card soldiers were chasing the Tin Woodman. The general and the Marines were left completely unattended on 59th Street. The Marines looked around the street in total bewilderment. How had they gone from facing certain execution to freedom so quickly? Sir, what just happened? A Marine asked. That was called luck, Sergeant, General Wilson responded. Let's not pursue it any further. Your order, sir, the Marine asked. Evacuate Manhattan immediately, General Wilson said, and someone get the president on the phone at once. We need authorization to wipe out these barbarians before they disperse. Sir, what does that mean? I'm saying we're at DEFCON 2, Sergeant, the general barked. We need to vaporize this island while those savages are still on it. In less than an hour, New York City will only exist in our memories. I'm going to stop the chapter there. I'll come back with video 2 in just a bit. I'll see you guys then.